Hello everyone,
Hi everybody.
and welcome to episode 7 of Bad Karma. I'm Mark.
I'm Carmel.
And this is episode 7 where we're going to be talking about the Dyatlov Pass incident. So do you know anything about the Dyatlov Pass at all?
I think you made me watch a documentary on it like years ago.
I say I made you watch it like I did, like it was a chore.
I don't like murders or mysteries or anything at all. You make me watch it all. But I'm not gonna lie, I've slept a lot since then and I can't remember anything.
So the Dyatlov Pass incident involved 9 hikers losing their lives whilst they were trying to obtain what's called the Grade 3 certification in hiking.
Okay.
So I did a quick check of what Grade 3 is exactly.
Is it like a more dangerous level?
Yeah, so at the time, there were 3 Soviet hiking classifications. Category 1 was sort of beginner, and it involves short treks, minimal obstacles. It's typically under 100 kilometers, and it often involves, a few days in duration, often near populated areas, so there's people nearby in case something goes wrong.
Okay.
Category 2 is intermediate, which often has longer routes. They're about 100 to 300 kilometers. And these tend to be moderate natural challenges like hills, forests, bit of snow, that kind of thing. And is often some time spent in remote areas away from the general population. The category they were trying to get was category 3, which is advanced. This is often minimum 300 kilometers total distance. At least 100 kilometers of that has to be through harsh terrain.
So like hiking up Mount Everest?
Kind of, yeah. It involves deep snow, steep climbs, dense forest, treeless zones far from villages, so way away from any help if it's needed. It's a minimum of at least 16 days with 8 days in complete isolation.
Okay.
And only a handful of groups attempted this in winter across the USSR at the time.
I ain't gonna lie, I think everybody's insane. Why would you want to go hiking?
They were aiming to get their Grade 3 hiking certification, which is a prestigious achievement that required not just endurance, but survival skills in extreme conditions. So the hike itself was a long-distance trek through harsh, remote terrain, as we've already said, perfectly suited to the challenge. They chose a winter expedition to Mount Torten in the northern Ural Mountains. The group consisted of 9 already experienced hikers, all students or recent graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute in, I'm going to butcher this name, Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg. Their leader was somebody called Igor Dyatlov, who was known for his discipline and technical skill, and the team was well prepared for the journey. So the group was made up of initially 10 people. I'll explain why we only talk about 9 in just a little while. But the leader of the group, as previously mentioned, was Igor Dyatlov. He was a group leader, radio engineering student at Ural Polytechnical Institute. He designed the tent and stove that they used on the expedition, and he was known for his discipline and leadership. That's what made him the perfect person to kind of lead on this hike where they were all hoping to get their qualification. He was joined by Zinaida Kolmogorova, who was a radio engineering student also, energetic and well-liked and had completed several long treks previously. The next person was Ludmila Dubinina, who was an economics student at UPI. She had trekked through harsh conditions before. They were also joined by Yuri Krivonoshenko, a graduate of UPI who worked at a secret nuclear facility. I bring that up because there will be a relevant point later while we talk about that.
Okay.
He was known for his humor and musical talent, and he played the mandolin, which you said it was some kind of guitar. He played a tiny guitar.
So a mandolin is a stringed musical instrument in the lute family. It's generally plucked with a pick.
Oh, okay. It's kind of like a
Violin. Yeah, a guitar violin.
Yeah, like a mixture of the two.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Joining them was Rustem Slobodin, a mechanical engineer and UPI graduate. He was athletic and resilient. I feel like you would have to be athletic to be able to take part in something like this anyway.
Yeah, I won't be able to do it. I'll be dying.
Yeah, exactly. Me too at this point in my life.
My lungs would have given out.
Yeah. So the next one was Yuri Doroshenko. He was a radio engineering student. He was known for his strength and bravery. The next person is Alexander Kolvatov. He was a physics student, formerly worked in a secret Moscow laboratory.
Jesus Christ, these are very bright people.
He was methodical and quiet and possibly had ties to Soviet intelligence. And in fact, from a documentary I watched, there was some rumblings amongst the group that perhaps he was part of Soviet intelligence at some point before this hike.
Okay.
The next person was Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, who was a civil engineering student. He was charismatic and well-liked and came from a French-Russian family. And the final person that joined them on the hike was a World War II veteran and hiking instructor called Semyon Zolotov. He was the oldest member, so he was 38 years old.
That's my age.
He wasn't a UPI student. He did have quite a mysterious background, and some people suspected he actually had ties to the KGB.
What's that?
It's sort of the Russian secret service at the time.
Okay, that's me.
So I did say there were actually 10 people that initially took part on this hike, but 9 died in mysterious circumstances, which we'll talk about in just a little bit.
What happened to the 10th person?
The 10th member of the group was called Yuri Yudin. He turned back during the hike on January 28th, 1959, due to illness, and that decision is thought to have saved his life.
When did they start off again? Sorry.
We'll run through the timeline in just a second, but he basically turned back quite shortly into the trip.
Okay.
Yuri Yudin turned back from the expedition on January 28th, 1959, due to a combination of illness and physical discomfort. He was suffering from rheumatism and sciatica.
Oh, painful.
I know that feeling, which flared up during the early stages of the trek.
He's lucky he didn't get high up with sciatica, because he won't have been able to get back down.
Can you imagine getting stuck somewhere where you can't turn back? If there is a good time for it to happen, it's probably when you've not long set off.
We both suffer from sciatica, but I've been like to the point where I can't move. You've not been to that point yet, have you?
No.
See, I've been to the point where I'm in absolute agony when I can't move, and I've been put on medication for it.
Yeah. The decision for Yuri to turn back was a difficult one. He made it reluctantly. He was close friends with many in the group and felt deeply connected to the mission of getting this qualification. In fact, one of the other hikers, Lyudmila Dubanina, wrote in her diary that it was a pity to part with him, especially for her and Zinaida Kolmogorova. So again, we'll talk about kind of what happened to everyone, but Yudin's departure is thought to have saved his life. He remained haunted by the tragedy, often expressing guilt and sorrow over the loss of his friends. He never married and kept a teddy bear gifted to him by Lyudmila as a personal memento.
Oh.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the mystery itself,
Yeah.
can I just say what a bunch of bright, intelligent people they are?
Yeah, let me just...
Are they all... They're not from the same uni or anything either, are they?
They're all from the same unit.
Oh, they're all from the same uni. Because they're friends, apart from the 38-year-old.
Well, let me just run through the age of them all. This will give you a bit of an idea about kind of where they are in life.
Okay.
So bearing in mind they're all experienced hikers used to roughing it. Igor Dyatlov was 23.
Okay.
He's the leader. He's leading this hiking group at 23 years old. Zinaida Kolmogorova was 22.
Okay.
Yuri Krivonishenko was 24. Rustam Slobodin, 23. Lyudmila Dubanina was 20. Yuri Doroshenko was 21. Alexander Koletov was 25. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol was 23. Semyon Zolotaryov was 38. He was the oldest. And the person that survived, Yuri Yudin, was 21.
Okay, so...
41 with sciatica. Can you imagine that?
No, I thought that. I started suffering from sciatica when you got me pregnant.
Yeah, well, I've started getting sciatica. I'm 32. So you can kind of expect to get it around that age. With 21. Poor guy, especially if obviously quite passionate about hiking.
Yeah. So you've got a group of 20-year-olds. Is there any indication that they all know each other apart from the loner 38-year-old?
Yuri, the one that survived, he was gifted a teddy bear. So they must be a group of friends.
Yeah.
If they're gifting things to each other and they've put this,
But how did the 20-year-olds know the 38-year-old? Saying that I have friends that's in their 20s and I'm 38. So I guess it's different walks of life and you'd meet people in different places.
I'm pretty sure the documentary I watched about it said that Semyon Zolotov, the 38-year-old, I think he just wanted to tag along and they let him.
Okay.
The documentary I watched said that he tagged along with them, but he didn't really engage too much. He was quite respectful.
Quite a loner.
Yeah, stayed kind of with the group, but he would kind of sit by himself, which I guess if your second oldest person is Alexander Koletov, who's still 13 years younger. If we're talking about kind of why Semyon joined them, he was one of the, he was the only one that wasn't a student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Instead, he was a military veteran and a senior instructor at the Kurovska tourist base.
So he was another instructor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
His stated reason for joining was to complete a Category 3 trek, which would qualify him for the highest level of hiking certification.
Oh, so he was there to get the qualification to train other people to go to... Right, okay. He was there to basically get qualified to become a leader.
Yeah, this was a professional goal, as it would enhance his credentials as a tourism instructor. However, some speculate deeper motives. His military background, including service in World War II and possible ties to Soviet intelligence, has led to theories that he may have had classified objectives or was involved in military testing in the region. And this links into a theory that we'll talk about later.
I've already got a theory in my head because of who they are.
Obviously, there's a person here who sticks out like a sore thumb. We now have an idea of, you know, who lives, who dies, how these guys have kind of formed this group, what the aim of this hike was.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the timeline of how things happened. I'm not going to go into a massive amount of detail with the timeline just because we are on a time limit with the podcast. There are some documentaries that have been made about the Dyatlov Pass incident that go into major detail. We're talking 3, 4, 5 hour long documentaries. Like most hiking groups at the time where you're out for days and days and days, they did keep a diary of what happened on each particular day.
Okay.
Usually you would have a dedicated diary writer when you go out. It would be somebody who's tasked with writing in the journal, making the journal entries. What was a little bit different about this particular hike was they took it in turns.
Okay.
Obviously, we know they were written by different people because you can tell by the way people are writing. The writing looks different on the pages, but also they were referring to each other in the diaries.
So, yeah, so it'll be I and then other people.
Yeah.
And then it will switch to I and then the person that wrote before.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
As we spoke about, the hike initially began on January the 23rd, 1959, and the group of 10 hikers departed from Spurlovsk, now Yekaterinburg, by train. 2 days later, January the 25th, the group travelled by train and truck to the village of Vizhay, the last inhabited settlement before their trek would begin.
Okay.
So they set off on the 23rd. They don't actually begin the trek until it looks like somewhere between the 25th and 27th. So it's taken them 2 days to actually get to the point where they'll then actually set out on foot. On January the 28th, that's when Yuri Yudin, the 10th member of the group, turned back and was unable to continue due to his sciatica and rheumatism. The remaining group of 9 then continued towards Mount Batorton.
The rheumatism, I'm guessing that's rheumatism arthritis. That's a lot more painful than sciatica.
Yeah.
And we can get that quite young as well.
Yeah, I'm quite shocked that Yuri, at 21, had something like that. But also, in order for him to be doing a stage 3 hike, you would assume he's done a stage 1 and stage 2 already.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, category 2, intermediate, already has longer routes, 100 to 300 kilometers, and involves hills, forests, snow, and time spent in remote areas. So my guess would be that maybe his condition has worsened. Either that or he's jumped straight to category 3.
It flares. It's not one of those that you can predict when it's going to come on. So he could have gone on it thinking it's going to be fine, and then it's flared through the night.
Yeah.
So that's why he's gone on it, because you can have good days and you can have bad days.
Yeah.
And when you have your bad days, you can't fucking move.
So January 31st, the group reached the edge of the highland area and began preparing to climb So they're now at the point where they have to start climbing this mountain.
Yep.
And they also cached or stashed surplus supplies in a wooded area for their return, because obviously they have to come back down at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be too hard to carry everything up.
Yeah.
You need to put things at certain points to be able to survive and be able to carry everything, aren't you?
Yeah. So on February the 1st, the hikers begin their ascent towards Kholat Siak. Due to worsening weather and poor visibility, they actually veered off course and set up camp on the mountain slope instead of descending to a more sheltered area. So they're basically on the side of a mountain.
Yep.
Now, the night of February the 1st, sort of leading into the morning of February 2nd, is where some quite strange things start to happen. The events that actually took place have been debated for the last 60 years. And this is where the theories will come in. And also people, quite recently, Russia has reopened the Dyatlov Pass incident, and they think they now have a conclusion to it. But for the longest time, it's kind of remained unsolved. And even now, some people debate the Russian story behind it. So during the night, something caused the group to cut open their tent from the inside and flee into the night, some barefoot or wearing very few clothes.
Okay.
The tent was cut open from inside, for one thing, which is strange. There were no signs of a struggle, but it was evident that there'd been some form of panic.
Hallucinations?
So this is where the theories come in, because some people suspected that maybe they had been attacked, either by an animal or people. It was known that there were sort of tribes in the area, so they thought maybe that they had been attacked and cut their way out of the tent to flee.
So they was coming in the front, so they've cut their way out the back.
Yeah, that might explain why some of them left
half naked.
Yeah, without any way of getting dressed. The problem with that theory is, rather than them kind of scattering to get away, they seem to have walked down the mountain or away from the mountain, and very organized.
Okay.
Almost like they're walking together or running together.
So they ran as a group.
Yes.
Right. So it wouldn't have been that panicky.
For some of the way.
And then they split up.
Which we'll talk about in just a second.
Okay, but so I'm guessing they were sleeping in different tents.
No.
It was all 9 of them was in the same tent.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they were sleeping in the same tent.
Yeah.
So either somebody has opened the front of the tent and they've escaped at the back. So I'm guessing they saw shadows or heard noises.
Right.
Or hallucinations. Or an animal, a wild animal, shadow of a wild animal.
That was some of the initial theories. The theories were that maybe one of the surrounding tribes had attacked them and they cut their way out the tent to kind of get out faster. Or a bear, or, some kind of wolf or a wild animal.
Was there any other sign of anything other than them?
Oh, we'll talk about that in just a second.
Sorry.
Because there are a few interesting points that kind of make this not as straightforward as it sounds. Some other theories were that somebody in the group had
tried to attack them.
Had gone crazy, or,
And they were blocking the entrance, so they had to cut their way out. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Some of the theories that I've seen point towards Semyon.
The veteran, the 38-year-old.
Yes. Because he was very keen to go with the group. He obviously has, military experience, so it might be that actually a group of people he can control and threaten and know how to effectively kill someone. But because of some of the details we'll talk about in a little bit, I don't think that
is the case.
I don't think that's the correct theory. I don't think Semyon did anything, and we'll talk about why that is in just a second.
Okay.
The people in the tent obviously moved away from the tent at some point. So where were they found?
Was they found together?
No.
So they was found split up.
Yeah. So I guess this is the strange thing, because why would you
run together but then split up?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Yeah. So 2 bodies were found near a cedar tree, and they were the bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. They were found barefoot and in underwear near a small fire.
Okay. So trying to get warm.
Potentially, yeah. Doroshenko had burns, bruises, and blood on his face.
Okay.
Krivonischenko had missing skin on his hands and a piece of his own flesh in his mouth,
Gross.
possibly bitten off in agony. So there are some theories I've read that said it was a piece of his knuckle was found in his mouth.
So he's biting it.
Yeah, some people have said it's a way of managing shock.
And like frostbite.
Yeah.
Cold.
Yeah, or it's kind of like, it's a way of snapping yourself out of something, inflict pain on yourself. But you'd have to bite yourself very hard to actually bite a piece of you.
And this is in the winter as well, so they're going to be absolutely freezing. So he could have frostbite and not know how hard he's biting.
Well, also, if he was found in his underwear,
He's got to be freezing.
And this is another strange detail as well. The group were found wearing each other's clothes. So the official cause of death for both of Doroshenko and Krivonischenko is that they both died of hypothermia.
Which would make sense.
Which isn't surprising, considering they weren't really wearing anything. So, what's interesting about the way they both died is Doroshenko had burns on him.
Frostbite burns or burns?
So, the burns that were found on Doroshenko aren't frostbite burns. They're actually burns that you would get from extreme heat.
Okay.
So if we look at sort of the contextual clues, Doroshenko and Krivonischenko were both found near a fire. They'd attempted to build a fire. So the burns may have resulted from them being too close to that fire once they'd created it. That could be what caused the burn. So, I mean, if we look at some of the injuries that he sustained, there was skin damage on his fingers, possibly from contact with flames or extreme heat. He had burned hair on the right side of his head, and he had a left wool sock that was burned as well. So,
but couldn't that just be he's sat by a fire, he's trying to warm up, and it's like frozen that he's not feeling it?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
He also had a foamy grey discharge from his mouth, which some investigators speculated could indicate chest compression or internal trauma, though this isn't directly linked to the burns. So this is another interesting detail, internal trauma.
But that's not the reason why he died.
That's not the reason why he died. They said it was hypothermia. So I want you to remember the fact that they're saying trauma to the innards.
To the chest,
Yeah. So between the tent and the tree that those two were found at were the bodies of Igor Dyatlov, the leader of the group, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin. They were found spaced along the path back to the tent as if they'd been trying to return to the tent.
Okay.
So this is where the idea of, sort of somebody within the group killing them kind of falls apart a little bit. Because why would they then go back to the tent, all three of them?
Because the ones that was trying to kill him's not longer in the group.
Possibly.
And they've got lost in the woods.
Possibly. Or could it be a animal that managed to chase away?
I don't think they chased him away. I think the animal chased them and then got lost in the woods. The same as the killer. The killer could have chased him and got lost in the woods, so that's why there's only 3 of them remaining. So what happened to the other 4?
We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
So Dyatlov had blood on his face and vomit stains.
Gross.
And Kolmogorova had a baton-shaped bruise on her waist.
A baton shape, like policeman baton.
I guess, or maybe getting clubbed with something.
Sure.
Slobodin had a fractured skull, suggesting blunt force trauma.
So that's what killed him?
Rustam Slobodin's official cause of death was hypothermia, but his body also showed signs of head trauma that deepens the mystery. According to his autopsy report, Slobodin had a fractured skull, specifically a linear fracture on the right side. Investigators noted that his injury was likely caused by a blunt force impact, possibly from a fall or blow, but it wasn't considered fatal on its own. So he lived after that had happened. What's strange is that he appeared to have continued moving after sustaining the injury, suggesting he was still conscious and trying to return to the tent when he collapsed.
Panic.
His body was found lying face down in the snow with one arm tucked under him and the other extended, classic size of someone who has succumbed to cold while attempting to crawl. The combination of trauma and hypothermia has led some to speculate whether he was involved in a struggle or fell while fleeing in panic. So yeah, all 3 of those, Igor, Zinaida and Rustem, were all deemed as having died due to hypothermia.
But they had other injuries.
Yeah,
Okay.
they had other injuries that suggested something happened. So later, bearing in mind this happened in February, there were 4 further bodies found in May.
So these are the remaining 4.
These are the remaining 4. They were found until 3 months later.
Jesus, okay.
Yeah. Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolebatov, Nikolay Thibault-Brignol, and Semyon Zolotaryov were found under 4 meters of snow in a creek bed or a ravine. Dubinina had a missing tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. The chest had also been crushed. Thibault-Brignol had a massive skull fracture.
Same as the other dude.
Zolotaryov had crushed ribs and missing eyes.
Gross.
And I think it's Kolvatov. And Kolvatov had neck injuries and missing eyebrows.
Random. Okay, so first of all, this is very Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, so the way it's kind of worded, and this is where I recommend people go and watch some of the documentaries, because it does sound almost sacrificial.
Yeah, it sounds very ritual, like the tongue, the eyes.
Yeah, and it had been suggested as one of the theories that one of the local tribes had stumbled across this tent and sacrificed them or killed these people for kind of being on their territory, being in their land. And the reason they suspected that was there was some kind of symbol or ritualistic figure found near the area they died in. However, since it happened, they have kind of theorized that had already been there for a while, and it was more likely that symbol or figure was where the tribe had sacrificed a yak or some kind of herd animal. So the injuries they sustained were likened to a car crash, but there were no external wounds.
And was this up the mountain or in dense, in a
ravine?
So like woods?
It's saying it was a creek bed.
Right, okay, so like Carlisle.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But they were under 4 meters of snow. So
it's been there a while.
Yeah, well, 3 months. And also 4 meters is a lot of snow. So there's obviously been snowfall since they initially died.
Yeah.
Quite strange already, the fact that they've died. It's been kind of ruled as hypothermia, but they've likened the actual injuries to kind of like, some people have said
it's very injuries.
Yeah, some people have said it's almost like they were having fist bites, and then others have said it's the same kind of thing that you get with car crashes or a fall from a great height, that kind of thing, which will explain why some of them had these internal injuries like, crushed chests and broken ribs and that kind of thing with no external.
Or they could have fell off a building when they was asleep.
So some people have spoken about the missing eyes and the missing tongue and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's random.
Yeah.
Because that means they've actually been cut out.
Not necessarily. Some people have said that is missing eyes and tongue can happen as a result of animals coming, because one of the things they do is they go for the softest parts of the body.
Okay, was the mouth open?
Possibly. But you've seen, when a bird pecks at your eyes.
Yeah, eyes I get, but mouth, tongue.
The tongue as well, yeah. If they died with their mouth open, possibly the tongue. It's a soft part, isn't it? A soft part of the face.
But then again, they had the lips. Did you say they had the lips on one of them?
So one person had a part of the lip missing, yeah.
And that was the same person as the tongue?
That was Dubinina, yeah.
So yeah, that could be possible that they've had their lip first, then gone through the lip to the tongue.
Yeah. That still wouldn't explain the crushed chest, though.
No. Unless the animal sat on him while they did it.
There were a couple of theories that maybe, because there were trees in the area, maybe that the people where they've said the injury is similar to falling from a great height, maybe they attempted to climb a tree to get away from something and then fell.
Yeah, but if they're experienced climbers and hikers...
Well, what you've got to remember is if this took place at night as well, especially if they've had to leave their tent in a panic, they're not going to have any light.
They're going to be scared.
Yeah, they're not going to have any light whatsoever. I mean, we'll talk more about the theories in a little bit, but it must be absolutely terrifying if they were attacked, because they won't be able to see anything.
This is why I don't go camping.
Yeah. Another strange detail around the way the bodies were found was there was small amounts of radioactive contamination that were detected on the clothing of two of the victims, Yuri Krivonishenko and Alexander Kolbatov.
But were these the ones that worked with the radioactive stuff?
Krivonishenko was the one that worked at a nuclear facility and had previously helped in cleaning up the Kishtin nuclear disaster.
That could be why he had it on him.
Yeah, it was a small trace of radiation. The other person, Kolotov, from what I've read, there was nothing to kind of indicate why he would have any form of nuclear radiation trace on him. What was interesting was they said that the radiation was beta radiation, which is quite hard to detect. There are some people that have said, well, why were they looking for radiation in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really weird thing to look for.
Yeah, the radiation was beta radiation, not gamma, which is unusual and harder to detect. So
they dug into this to detect that?
Yeah, because considering the way they've died...
You wouldn't think that was going to be one of the things that they'd look for.
No, you wouldn't think to check. So they've said the levels of radiation they found were above background radiation, but not dangerously high, comparable to what you'd find in a bunch of bananas.
So not on what they could kill you. But they must know something we don't if they're looking for radiation.
Potentially. Now there's theories around why there was a trace of radiation at all. And this kind of links into the idea of them being part of the Secret Service. Some people have speculated that maybe one of them was carrying some kind of beta radiation isotope.
Okay.
Doesn't explain why it's on two of them.
Yeah.
But that's possibly one of the reasons. Some people have also said Krivonishenko, his background, having worked at a nuclear facility, having lived in an area where there's been this disaster, that's potentially the reason why he had that radiation.
Yeah, and the other person could have got close and it's transferred over.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk a little bit about Yuri Krivonishenko. So he studied construction and hydraulics at UPI University and graduated in 1957. While working in Chelyabinsk, a secret nuclear facility, he experienced a disaster that became known as the Kishtin disaster. On September 29th, 1957, the plutonium plant experienced a radioactive leak.
Right.
Yuri Krivonishenko was among the people who were sent to clean it up. So they've said that that's the reason why he might have radiation traces on his clothing. However, being a specialist engineer, Yuri had knowledge about radioactivity and how to avoid unwanted exposure.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
Yeah, and also it doesn't explain why it's on Kolotov.
No, but I also am confused why they were looking for it.
Yeah, it's not... I mean, obviously it wasn't the cause of death.
But it's not a part of a normal autopsy.
Yeah.
Especially, they died outside in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. But this kind of leads into one of the conspiracy theories, which is that this was part of some kind of government test.
Okay.
Some people have speculated that's the reason Semyon Zolotoyov was there, having been, a World War II veteran.
And is part of the military.
Possibly KGB ties as well. Some people have also said that might explain why some of them had missing eyes, missing tongue, that kind of thing, if their bodies had then been harvested for whatever reason afterwards. Some people have said maybe none of this was planned. Maybe they stumbled across a sort of hidden government facility and that's why this happened to them and they've made it look
like an accident.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that's true.
I saw a theory, and I don't think this one holds water at all. Some people have even said Yuri Yudin, the guy who left and went back home, maybe he did it.
With how much pain he would have been in? No.
Yeah. So, I mean, Yuri died in 2013 at 75 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And it says here that he spent the rest of his life trying to understand what happened to his friends. So obviously this is what's haunted him because everybody that went died except him. So in some ways, his illness saved his life.
Yeah.
I hope he never heard those theories about him being a killer.
Yeah.
I don't know how popular that theory was, but it was one that I saw. I don't believe it, in all honesty. Another theory is that it was caused by something called infrasound-induced panic.
Right.
A rare weather phenomenon called the Kármán vortex may have produced a low-frequency sound wave, and these waves could trigger irrational fear and panic, causing the hikers to flee their tent. So that would explain why they've cut them out. Because that still doesn't really, there still hasn't been anything to explain why they would cut themselves out just yet.
But if there's sheer panic and nobody tends to think logically when they're panicking.
Yeah. So another theory is that it was a UFO or paranormal activity.
Okay.
And apparently strange lights had been reported in the sky around the time of the incident. Some have suggested there was an alien encounter or an interdimensional phenomena that killed these people. And some have pointed to the missing eyes and tongue as a sign of something unnatural. Maybe, as I say, these things have been harvested from the bodies for whatever reason. Another theory is that it was a Yeti or a cryptid attack. I guess that's because of the kind of area they were in. It's a popular but less credible theory, and it's based on the violent injuries and the hikers' apparent terror.
Yeah, because the Yeti is like a ginormous bear.
Yeah, it's the abominable snowman. It's Bigfoot. It's giant monsters.
Yeah, but I've seen the Bigfoot film. They're actually very sweet creatures. And we've seen Monsters, Inc. Abominable snowman likes icy cool pops.
So shall we talk about the official reason that they've given for why they left the tent?
So this is what they've come up with.
Yeah. So like I say, it was reopened quite recently.
Okay.
The longest time it was deemed this is unsolved.
Go on then.
One of the documentaries I watched mentioned that they had used technology from the film Frozen. A Disney film.
I love that film.
I'm not too technical with it, but somehow they were testing how snow would fall in a certain way or how the physics of snow would work.
That will be because of Elsa's powers.
Yeah. And they've used, I'm not saying they watched Frozen and then came to this conclusion.
Yes, they fucking did. Don't take away the Frozen aspect.
And I don't know precisely what system they used, but somehow
they brought Elsa and Anna to life, and they made Elsa show with the powers and explain how it works.
Well, essentially what they've done is established that they believe it was an avalanche.
Okay.
So that would explain a few things.
That's not Elsa. Okay.
It would explain why some of the bodies were found under a thick amount of snow.
Yeah.
Some people have said it would also explain why some of them had things like crushed.
Yes, because
if they've been hit with something with force, like a ton of snow.
And to be fair, like if it's an avalanche, you'll be hit with a crush force, but not all of the snow will stay on you.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah.
It would also explain why some of them died of hypothermia.
Yes.
Because they've obviously been injured to the point where they've then still been exposed. The avalanche may not have been enough to kill them.
So they ran out the tent in a panic because they heard the avalanche come in.
Well, this is the thing. Some people have said it wasn't an avalanche. It couldn't have been because the slope wasn't steep enough for an avalanche to occur. And also the hikers left the tent too calmly. As I say, they didn't scatter. They all moved together, seemingly at a slow pace, which you wouldn't do if there was an avalanche.
You didn't say that. You said they panicked and ran out of the tent together.
There was a sign of panic in the way that they'd left without putting anything on.
But you said they've run out together.
No, they left. They cut their way out. I said that there was no sign of a struggle, but they'd left in a panic.
Okay.
So they didn't take any belongings with them. And that's why some of them were found wearing each other's.
But that can still explain an avalanche, though.
And that's the other theory, actually, that I've read about, because they were wearing each other's clothes, some of them. There are theories that they didn't all die at the same time, clearly, because some of them turned around and tried to go back to the tent. And some of them were also wearing the other person's clothes. There are theories that, unfortunately, they had to take clothes from
the bodies
to keep warm, and it still wasn't enough. That, in essence, is the official theory that the Russian government have gone with, that it was an avalanche.
Okay, but the times of death, have they worked out how long in between the groups died? So the 2, the 3, and the 4.
So the likely order of the deaths are Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonishenko. They were found first near the cedar tree beside a burnt out fire. They were barefoot and lightly dressed, suggesting they fled the tent in panic, and they likely died of hypothermia while trying to stay warm. Their clothes were later repurposed by other hikers.
Okay.
So I guess what they're trying to say is maybe they were all together at some point, and then these two have died. Their clothes have then been taken, and then the rest have kind of moved away.
Yeah.
The next person was Rustem Slobodin. He was found halfway between the cedar tree and the tent. He had a fractured skull. They said it was possibly from a fall. His watch had stopped around 8:25 a.m., which may indicate the time of death.
Okay.
Could also just be that his watch needed winding and he was already dead at that point.
When you say the watch needed winding...
I was just guessing that because it's an old
No,
watch.
what I'm saying is they're watches that when they have the time, they also have a dial for AM and PM. Because if there's not, how do they know?
Yeah, it could be 8:25 p.m.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. The next one they're saying died was Igor Dyatlov. He was found further up the slope, heading back towards the tent. He was dressed more warmly than the others, but still not adequately enough to survive the weather. He had died of hypothermia, possibly after trying to help the others. The next person is Zinaida Kolmogorova. She was found even farther up the hill than Dyatlov, also heading towards the tent, and her position suggested that she'd outlasted Dyatlov and Slobodin on the way back to the tent.
Okay. So they weren't climbing up together, they were climbing up in stages.
They may have been climbing up together and then each one has kind of dropped dead on the way.
Yeah.
So her official cause of death was hypothermia, but she also had bruises indicating a fall or a struggle.
Yeah, because she was the one hit by a baton, wasn't she?
Supposedly, yeah. And then the remaining 5 people are the Ravine group. So this is Dubinina, Kolatov, Thibault, Brignal, and Zolotaryov. So they were found together in May, buried under 4 meters of snow in a creek bed. There is a suggestion that they built a snow shelter, suggesting that they were actually surviving for a little bit.
Okay.
They experienced severe internal injuries, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, missing eyes, and tongue. They likely died within a short time of each other, possibly from a fall or collapse of the shelter that they were in.
Just going back to the girl that got further up the hill to your tent, could her injuries be from either a tree fall where a branch has smacked her, hence baton, or she's rolled down the hill and whacked into a tree or a branch, and then she's tried to climb again?
So Zinaida Kolmogorova was one of the 9 hikers who perished in the Dyatlov Pass incident, and her death, while officially attributed to hypothermia, raises unsettling questions. She was found on February 27th, 1959, lying face down in the snow.
So this is like just under a month later.
1st or 2nd of February.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Let's return to the timeline then. So we now know what the purpose of this trip was, when it happened. We know that these people were then found deceased. Let's talk about kind of what happened after that.
Okay.
So this event took place on the 1st or 2nd of February. By the 12th of February, the group had been expected to return to Vizay.
Right.
But when they didn't arrive, families and fellow students then raised the alarm. Now, the documentary that I watched did say that they had expected a slight delay. So there wasn't immediate concerns that they were late.
Is they expected the slight delay due to weather?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Snow?
Yes.
Okay.
So on between February 20th and 26th, the search parties were dispatched. And on February the 26th, the tent was found.
Okay.
So we'll talk about kind of what the tent looked like, what condition the tent was in. So the tent was found by a search party led by Boris Slobtsov. It was located on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakh, exposed to brutal wind and snow rather than in the more sheltered forested area nearby. The tent was collapsed and partially buried in snow, but it was still anchored in place, so it hadn't been pulled up by the weather.
Okay.
It had been cut open from the inside, and there were footprints leading away from the tent, some made by bare feet or socks heading towards the forest. What's strange about that is, if it's about 25 days later, you'd think the footprints would have been covered by now.
Yeah.
By snowfall.
So is that their tent?
It looks like it, yeah.
So looks like it's been collapsed due to snowfall.
Hmm.
So if the tent's collapsed, how is their footprints.
Yeah. Most of the hikers had left without proper clothing, so all of their clothing was found inside the tent.
Yeah.
And also, he found food laid out, indicating that the group had actually been eating a meal when they were suddenly having to leave the tent. So, I mean, considering everything we've just spoken about then, what do you think happened out of the various theories that we've discussed?
Okay, so my first thought was older guy, because it's not old, it's my age, so yeah, old. I feel old. But my first thought is the older guy was sent there, and...
Sent there by who? By the government?
Yeah, because these are all very intelligent people working for secret labs. So, like, sent there, and...
Do you think maybe the theory around them being near a secret military base is true?
No. So my first thought was that he poisoned them with, like, wild berries or something. Thanks, Frida McFadden. That is one of your books, and yeah, that was my first thought, because who loves a good thriller? But looking at it more logically, I believe the two that was found together in their underwear, I believe they succumbed to the cold, and the burns on them was because they was trying to heat themselves up on the fire. They wouldn't have felt the fire because it was too cold. So that's why he's got burns. The other one, he bit his knuckle off because he couldn't feel it. So he didn't realise how deep he bit down. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think my theory of the woman falling from a tree or rolling down the hill and landing on something hard may be true. That also works out the same for the other two, because the one with the skull fracture, he could have fell down. If there's snow and they couldn't find a way, he could have fell down and whacked his head on a rock. The middle one, so Igor, the leader, he might have, the crush symptoms. He was just cold.
Yeah, all three of the people that he was bound near was just, they said hypothermia.
Yeah, but two of them had further injuries.
Yeah.
So, or maybe it was Igor all along, and he chased the girl up the fin, and he succumbed faster than what she did. The other four, I think they were ritualized, and it was something completely different.
You think maybe it was one of the local tribes, or?
Yeah, I like a bit of mystery, so I think it was a mixture of everything. I feel like Frida McFadden written about the panic and the thing, and I think she wrote one by one based on that, and they was having hallucinations due to the poison berries, and I think Igor chased the woman up the hill, but then succumbed to the cold, or it was an avalanche. I get the avalanche idea. That makes more sense. I know they said the hill's not steep enough. However, the tent on the picture is crushed by snow. So at some point, I think they all got hit by the avalanche, and they was trying to survive it. Two of them managed to get a fire building, but because they was only wearing their underwear and the least of the clothing, they succumbed to it first. But the avalanche does make more sense to me, because that would explain all the injuries, and it would also explain the tent, and it would explain that they heard it and they panicked and got out the back. Even with an avalanche, it can come slow, especially if it's not on the right slope. They could have heard it first, and it came to them slower because the slope wasn't as big.
So, I mean, the more I read into it, the more I agree with it being an avalanche. I think the thing that kind of makes it a bit fantastical is the fact that they supposedly did leave the tent quite calmly together.
But that's what I mean, with them saying that it might not be an avalanche because of the slope. What if the slope slowed it down?
Yeah.
Until it reached the tent and then it got faster. Yeah. So they had enough time to get out of the tent. They heard it, saw it at the big opening of the tent.
Yeah.
And then there was like, right, we've got to leave the tent now. So they've done the slit and left calmly, but then it sped up because it hit the point of the slope where it went faster.
Possibly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that would explain why some of the people were buried under snow, why some of them had injuries like fractured skulls and, crushed ribs and that kind of thing. The missing body parts with the eyes, the tongue,
I think
that kind of thing.
That makes sense with the animals. Because, like we said, with the tongue one, the person without the tongue, they had parts of the lips missing as well, which means they had to go through the lips. And you don't always close your mouth either. When your mouth is closed, you don't always close your teeth.
But the thing is as well, what does the cold do to you?
Make your teeth chapped.
No, it numbs you, doesn't it? When you go to the dentist, one of the things they say when they give you the anaesthetic, which numbs your face, is be careful you don't bite your cheek or your tongue.
Yeah.
Could it be this person was so cold that they bit their own lip off without realising?
Yeah.
If you do
and then that made it easier for the animals to get to the tongue.
Yeah.
The lips
in the same way,
tissue as well. So
yeah, in the same way that Krivonoshenko bit his own flesh in his mouth, and we're thinking maybe that was down to him
biting too hard because he couldn't feel it.
Yeah, either because he couldn't feel how hard he was biting, because obviously if your hand's numb and you don't know if are you biting it hard or soft or what. That could be the same thing, but with lips instead. You bite your own lip.
That would make sense though, because the first place you get frostbite is on your nose and your lips.
Yeah, I don't know about you as well though, but the person that had the missing lip, her chest was crushed.
Avalanche.
What? Yeah, but also what do you do when you're in pain?
What do I do when I'm in pain?
When I'm in pain and I do something like, don't compare at all, but when I stub my toe or something, I bite my lip.
I don't.
If this woman had a crushed chest, maybe she was in that much pain that she bit her lip, and obviously not being able to feel it because of the cold, could she have bit her own lip off?
Maybe.
Or bit her own tongue off even?
But not everybody does that, because I don't bite myself when I've stubbed my toe. I go, you fucker, who made me do that?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the injuries were described as being similar to a car crash, which, yeah, I guess if you're getting hit with a huge amount of snow.
A ton of snow, yeah.
Yeah.
Because snow, when compact, is very heavy.
Yeah. So I think what happened was the people that were found under the creek, in the creek bed, I think they got the initial impact of this avalanche. I think the two that were found near the cedar tree, near the fire, maybe they were part of a larger group with the ones that were going back up the mountain, and they've obviously had enough time to try and start a fire, to try and keep warm, but because of the lack of clothes, they've succumbed to that and then died. So I think what probably happened, maybe some of them wanted to go back to the tent to see if it was salvageable, and the others were kind of thinking,
because they need to shelter.
Yeah. And the others were thinking, no, let's get this fire going and stay here because we're going to freeze on the way up to the tent.
Well, it sounds like they started the fire for the ones with the least amount of clothes.
I think they were all a group. I think they all, when they started the fire, the ones that were halfway up the hill back to the tent, maybe they were with them when they started the fire.
No, that's what I'm saying. So logically, the four that was found deep under snow, they was hit.
I think so, because the ones that were hit, they
had more injuries.
Yeah, so Dubonina had the missing tongue, eyes, parts of her lips. Thibaut Brignol had a massive skull fracture. Zolotaryov had crushed ribs and missing eyes, and Kolvatov had neck injuries and missing eyebrows.
The eyebrows makes no sense. Maybe you shaved them off before.
No, I don't. I think they mean the whole brow was gone.
Frostbite.
Which, yeah, could be frostbite. It could also be, animals having ate part of the space.
Okay, so I think those four got hit by the avalanche first.
Yeah.
Then I think the other five managed to get down the hill after being hit by the avalanche.
Yeah.
And they've basically said, right, we'll make a fire. The two with the least amount of clothing makes sense to stay where you are and warm up, while the other three try and make it up the hill for the tent.
If this is supposed to have happened at night, they wouldn't be able to see anything. So could it be that the ones that are by the fire have said, the tent's gone? It must be.
No.
Because the avalanche has took it, and the others have gone, we want to go check, we want to see.
I believe they needed that attempt shelter. They knew that they wouldn't be able to survive without it.
Yeah. I mean, these are experienced hikers.
Yeah, they knew they wouldn't be able to survive without it. So they made a camp for the two that had no clothes, that was just in their underwear. They made a fire for them. And then the ones that seemed healthier and had more clothes and stronger to go back to the tent, to take the tent down, to see if it is salvageable. And then I think they was going to put the tent down and take it with them.
Yeah.
But on the way up, maybe they slipped on snow or something else happened for them to have their injuries.
So what I think happened, and I know the evidence is very sort of like, well, you know, certain things may have happened in a certain order. We can't guarantee that happened first. There's, you know, some people have said some of the injuries come across like they were in a fist fight.
But no, I don't see them.
But then it's who were they in a fist fight with? Who was fighting who? Why did no one stop it? Why did certain people have other people's clothes on and that kind of thing? Did they take it by force?
Yeah.
Did they take it from the dead body? That kind of thing. I think what happened was the 4 that were found in the creek beds, they died as we think, which is they were hit with the initial avalanche. The remaining 5 met somehow, started a fire to try and keep warm, realized they didn't have enough clothes to keep all of them warm, and who knows how long you're going to be there for.
Okay.
Because the people back at base aren't expecting you for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At that point. So you're going to be there for a while. You can't sit out there in the cold. So I think what's happened is the others have said, well, we need to go back to the tent then, try and salvage that. So at least then we've got shelter. And I think the 2 that were by the fire, because of the amount of or lack of clothes they had, they knew that if they were to try and go back up to that tent, they would die.
So it's basically what I said.
Yeah. And I think what's happened is they're by the fire, the reason they burnt themselves, maybe it's as the fire's gone out, because you can't keep the fire going forever. Maybe as the fires started to die down, they've got closer and closer and closer to the point where they're pretty much on the fire.
Yeah.
And then eventually the fire's gone out, so they've got the burn injuries, and then they died of hypothermia. The people that were going back up to the tent, I suspect they were going back up to the tent because they knew that they wouldn't last by that fire. I don't know if the plan was to go up and get the tent and bring it down so that the people that were by the fire would be saved, because this is all supposed to have took place over the course of hours. It wasn't like an instant.
Well, this is why I believe that they left the 2 at the fire because they was only in underwear and they needed to keep warm, so they left them at the fire while they went back to get the tent and some clothes.
Well, we were assuming that the 3 that were going back up to the tent were going up because they needed shelter. If this is taken...
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they're going back up to put the tent down to take it back to where the camp is.
Yeah, but either way, even if they were to bring the tent back down to camp, it's so they've got shelter.
Yeah.
Maybe it was to do with them needing food. Because again, their only source of food is in that tent. If they know they're going to be here for 2 more weeks, they're going to starve.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do something like eat each other or something. So maybe they have then got to the point where they've gone, we're going to run out of fuel for the fire. The fire's going to go out. And even if we do keep the fire going, we're going to run out of food.
Yeah, they've obviously decided that the stronger ones are going back to get the supplies and the tent, the shelter, and clothes for warmth.
And then I think possibly on the way, I mean, they weren't wearing sufficient clothing anyway. So the people that decided to go back up, they know they're going to have a hard time anyway.
Yeah.
And it's probably taken a lot of sort of admitting that you're probably not going to make it. Because don't forget, at this point, 4
are already gone.
Are already gone as far as they know. So I think what happened was maybe they've made some kind of agreement and said, look, let's just all try and get back there. Whoever gets back there, gets back there. Don't look back, just go. And I think that's probably why some of them were dropping on the way. I don't understand why Slobodin, the one who died first on the way, because it went Slobodin died first, going back up to the tent, then Dyatlov, and then Kolmogorova. So Slobodin had a fractured skull, suggesting blunt force trauma. I've never fractured my skull. I'm guessing it's not nice. Would you be able to get back up to a tent, or would you want to stay down near the fire?
But you don't know if that happened before or before he got down or while he was trying to get up and he fell down?
Well, yeah, potentially. I mean, I think it depends on. I'd like to get sort of more pictures of the tent area, because I'm thinking of them going up like a small hill rather than like a cliffside or something.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what makes the difference. If it's like a cliffside and there's a lot of sheer, like almost vertical climbing going up, then it would make sense that maybe in a weakened state he fell, fractured his skull, and then died. Whereas if it's a slight hill, I can kind of more understand somebody getting injured in the initial blast of snow, getting a fractured skull, but then still going, I can make it up that hill. Because at least, I'll have a fractured skull, but I'll be in a tent.
But again, they could have climbed up and fell down and hit the head on a rock, because you can't see anything that's dark.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the fractured skull clearly wasn't enough to kill Slobodan, because it was hypothermia that killed him.
There is a memorial slab, and their pictures are on that. And there's 2 on there. One of them looks about 12, and one looks about 16. The others, I would say, probably late teens, early 20s. And then the older guy looks older. I don't know who's who, because it's
in Russian.
Yeah, I can't speak Russian.
The photos, it's quite easy to find photos of them. But yeah, so, I mean, this went unsolved for almost 60 years. And I first learned about the Dyatlov Pass back in 2010, I want to say.
Okay.
Before the case was reopened and the Russian authorities were sort of adamant, no, this was a avalanche. So back then, when I first discovered it, the major points that people were pointing at really were the things like the crushed chests and the radiation that was found on the clothing. So people were very heavily pushing the idea back then that it was either some kind of government test gone wrong or something paranormal like aliens.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, this is why the Dyatlov Pass has always kind of stuck with me. In some ways, I think the idea of it just being an avalanche is quite a boring outcome, but I do think it's probably the most likely.
Well, that's what I said. I'd rather, my imagination runs around with. I would rather them being alive than safe.
Yeah. You know what it kind of reminds me of, and this is probably completely out of left field, but the fact that these diary entries and photographs you can look at, and, there's a timeline of events, and, there's bodies that are found in certain areas with different injuries on them.
Yeah, that's probably looking through the photos now.
It feels very much like, almost like Resident Evil or something, where there's diary entries that we're reading afterwards to try and figure out what has happened. It feels very survival horror, which I think is probably why it's captivated so many people for so many years.
Yeah, it is a very interesting one. It's very strange.
Yeah, I think like I say, the detail that really stood out to me, and the reason I've remembered it for so many years, I'll be honest, it was the radiation. And I feel like back in sort of 2010, when I was looking at it, I think they kind of downplayed Krivonoshenko's association with that nuclear facility back then. And I think it was done on purpose, because you can kind of explain the radiation quite easily if you remember that actually he did work at a nuclear facility.
Yeah.
Dealt with a cleanup. It was only trace amounts on his clothing, but maybe it was on some items that he had.
Yeah.
If he's got items from home that are radioactive, if it's a trace amount, not enough to cause harm, it's not going to set any Geiger counters off or anything like that. Not immediately anyway. It's not going to cause any health concerns. So it makes sense to me that he would have some form of radiation on him. But even then, it's quite strange, because Alexander Kolatov also had trace amounts of radiation on him. So I don't know how that's happened, unless maybe their clothing is touched somehow, or whatever radioactive item he had has also been held by Kolatov or something like that. Maybe it's as simple as Kolatov was wearing some of Krivonoshenko's clothing.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the diagrams on YouTube, not YouTube, on Google, and it could be an avalanche. Where they pitched their tent was right at the bottom of a hill.
Yeah.
Well, in between the hill. So I think it looks like there was a steady bit of snow and then there was a hill.
Yeah.
I believe it was an avalanche. That is the most likely theory.
I'll be honest, that's the one I believe as well. The more I look into it, I mean, there's so many theories about, there must have been a disagreement.
Another thing is, if they was attacked, the hiking, they all have those poker sticks.
I don't think that would be enough to fight back. That
Why?
if it's happening at the time of day that people are saying it happened, which would have been late at night, it would have been pitch black. The only light source you would have had would be from the moon and stars.
But those sticks have to be quite strong to be able to pull you through snow and rocks and stuff.
Yeah, but if they haven't got time to grab the clothes, they probably don't have time to grab that either. We've got the official timeline of events. I think what happened was probably they were relaxing. They heard sort of an avalanche noise.
Yeah.
They've come out of the tent. Obviously, it's pitch black, so they're just going to hear this noise but not actually see where it's coming from.
But they'll know what it is because obviously it'll rumble the ground.
Maybe they've thought, well, we're not dead already, so it might not be coming particularly fast. Maybe they've then started walking together down the hill to get away from whatever this noise is. Then it's got faster and then maybe took 4 of them out.
Yeah.
The remaining 5.
That's what I believe.
Yeah, the remaining 5 have maybe been hit but also been able to recover, maybe pull themselves out of whatever has happened. And then they've kind of gone, well, the tent, it's pitch black. We can't find our way back to the tent because that's another thing. Depending on how far away from the tent they've gone, perhaps they just can't find their way back. And then they've attempted to go back in the morning, maybe.
Yeah. Because you don't know if they managed to stay warm for the night and then had to go back in the morning.
Yeah.
You don't know when this actually occurred. And you don't. But every time you say avalanche, do you know what I'm picturing in my head?
What?
Mulan.
So yeah, really interesting set of events, I think, and obviously one that other people find interesting too because we've been talking about it for 60 years at this point.
How long have we been sat here?
Luckily, they have got a sort of finalized cause of death. Yeah, this, which I think is a bit of a relief for those family members of those that were involved, because when you've got people saying, it might have been I think it's called the Mansi tribe that would have attacked them, or maybe it was an inside job, maybe it was a government test, or...
There's so many things that it could be, but you need to think about it a bit more logically. These were scientific people, so if they were the ones thinking about it in their family way, they would probably sit there and say, right, scientifically, it would have to be this.
And obviously, you've got a feel for Yuri Yudin as well. They call him the sole survivor, the one that left the expedition. He's had to kind of carry this until his death in 2013, not quite knowing what happened. So Yudin never fully accepted the official explanation. He believed that there was military involvement or secret testing that may have played a role, especially given the radiation found on some of the clothing and the severe injuries that didn't match typical avalanche trauma. In interviews, he's often said, if I had a chance to ask God just one question, it would be what really happened to my friends that night.
Aww.
After the incident, Yudin became a passionate advocate for uncovering the truth. He kept personal notes, clippings, and diaries related to the case, many of which were discovered after his death in 2013.
Right.
Though he lived a quiet life, he remained deeply connected to the memory of the group, never marrying and often visiting their graves. His reflections add a poignant layer to the mystery. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the Dyatlov Pass mystery. As I say, there are several documentaries that dissect the diary entries piece by piece. They talk a lot more about kind of the lead up to the event, what the team were kind of talking about with each other, what their relationship is to each other as well. And then there's a lot more in-depth speculation on what they really think happened that night, down to the minute almost.
Okay.
So I do recommend checking those out. There's a few on YouTube. So one of my favorite YouTubers, Nick Crowley, has a video on the Dyatlov Pass incident. It's about half hour long, definitely worth checking out. And then there's also a almost 3-hour video by a YouTuber called The Law Lodge. It's called The Horrible True Story of Dyatlov Pass. And that was the video that I watched that gave a lot more information on sort of the background of the hikers. That video also does talk a lot about the contents of the diary as well. It's also how I learned that the diary entries were created by pretty much everyone in the group.
Okay.
Rather than by one specific diary or journalist within the group.
They'll all be linked into the bio, so just clicky.
But yeah, hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast on the Dyatlov incident. I think we have a Facebook poll going at the moment, don't we, for a listener's choice episode?
Yes, it is going to be up for 2 more weeks. It's not going to be episode 8, it's going to be episode 9.
Yeah.
So there's still time to vote on Facebook. We have figured out how to do a poll on Spotify now. So when we post the new listener's choice, we will do a poll on Spotify as well. So it will be in more places than one. We're just learning. We are not social media or techno freaks. And it is just me and Mark doing this. There's nobody else helping us. And we do have day jobs and children.
Really need to think about hiring an editor at some point. So yeah, make sure you keep an eye out for the next episode, which is on...
So this one is the unsolved murder of Kate Bushell. That'll be coming on the 14th of September.
Which I'm quite looking forward to, because this will be the conclusion to the 3-part podcast that
Just
we've been
in
doing.
time for Halloween.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to learning how all 3 of these unsolved murders are linked.
So am I, because I don't know.
You've got some investigating to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to have fun. But yeah, if you enjoy listening to this, check out Karma's a Witch.
We've just done a really fun episode, haven't we?
Yeah, so we've done the 4th sister.
Yeah.
So I'm currently editing that at the minute. If you are a Squid Games fan, then Mark has Karma's a Killer Game is 2 weeks behind on that due to technical issues. So episode 5 is coming next for that one.
If you've got anything else you want us to talk about, any topics you'd like us to cover, send it through to our email, which is
karma with a C, podcast@hotmail.com. You can either kind of messages on Facebook.
I don't know.
And you can listen to us on Spotify,
Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music, and find us on Facebook and TikTok. That's it for this week. So hope you enjoyed listening. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.